Okay, as long as you can hear me. You like the tie? And what do you call it? Does that look nice? A round of applause? Thank you. Thank you. Does it look like I'm going to a funeral? Can I wear this to a, how about to a wedding? Can I wear this to a wedding? I want to tell you something. My first experience, one of them I'll never forget from rabbinical school. I'm sitting in Talmud class one day, and I got to tell you what happened. We're going over the text, and all of a sudden the professor looks at me and says, Mr. Roberts, he says, what's the difference between a funeral and a wedding? I was sure it was in the text. I looked and looked and looked. Lo and behold, it's not there. He says to me, Mr. Roberts, he says, at a funeral you bury one, at a wedding you bury... Okay. I got to tell you my funniest wedding ever. You're not going to believe this. I got on a plane headed towards Orlando. We got on first because my mother, Alava Sholem, was in a wheelchair, and I got her on the plane, sat down, took out my book, I'm reading, the plane loads up. All of a sudden, you're not going to believe this. They're on their PA system, is there a chaplain, a clergy person on board? Would you please ring your buzzer? Now I want to tell you, they don't want me. I know that. So I didn't ring my buzzer, but nobody else rang their buzzer either. So I eventually reached up, rang my buzzer, and the stewardess comes over and says, I acknowledge your buzzer. Once we take off, the captain will be back to see you. Yeah, that's what I said. So I sat there waiting, we get off, and all of a sudden down, I look up, and there is the pilot. The pilot's standing, and he says, I have a question to ask you. He said, did you see that woman get on in a wedding gown? What a wedding? I didn't see it. Of course I didn't. And he says, well, she asked if I could do a wedding, much like a captain on the Triumph, right? And he says, I can't really do it. He says, can you? And I said to him, I don't know what state I'm over. I don't know if I'm, legal in the state. He said, well, I'm not either. He said, but would you be willing to do something? And I said, now he asked me, I said, yeah. And he said, well, let me go get my book. Now, here's a captain who flies by the book. He went and got his Bible. I can't believe it. We come down, there he is. He calls me up to the front of the plane in the galley there, and lo and behold, she comes up, and he proceeds to tell me. He said, what happened is she forgot, they're going down to the island to get married, and she forgot her hard copy of her divorce papers. And that's why she wanted to do this. And so all I can do is tell you that she was in this big bouffant dress, cut low, that when she bent over you could see her toes. And I want to tell you, what do you do in a moment like that? Because, I'm a rabbi. I don't do these kinds of weddings. I do counseling and so forth. And so I said, well, let me do, a blessing that I know, the priestly benediction in the original language. So that I did. So I got to tell you, how many here have had people, who have children who've gotten married? All right, when you get your son-in-law, you announce and say, oh, my son-in-law is this and that. Well, the woman says to her friend, she says, my daughter's getting married. She says she's getting married, and she's marrying a world-renowned symphony conductor. Really? That's not, wait, is that the same daughter that got married to the world-renowned surgeon? I said, oh, yeah. And the same one, wasn't she married to the world-renowned architect? I said, yeah. She says, oh, so much knockers from one daughter. I got to tell you that. I mean, some of us are older, got married when, the second time around, and this older couple, they go into CVS, they walk around and they said, let me ask you a question, Mr. Pharmacist. Says, do you have here the Viagra? I said, yeah. And it says, and do you have the Depends? Yeah. You got the Kleenex? He says, yeah. He says, you know what? I think we ought to register here. I got to tell you, it is Wednesday night, and you know what Wednesday night is? Wednesday night is Bulletin Bloopers Night. These are some Bulletin Bloopers that came. I was going to sit behind there, but if I sit there, then you won't be able to see me. So, one of the bloopers that came up in the bulletins. Join us for our onig after the service. Prayer and medication will follow. Remember, here we go. Remember in prayer the many who are sick of our congregation and community. For those of you who don't have children, who have children and don't know it, we have a nursery downstairs. Here we go. A bean supper will be held on Tuesday evening in the social hall. Music shall follow. At the evening service tonight, the sermon topic will be, What is Hell? Come early and listen to our cantor and choir practice. If you enjoy singing, the choir is looking for you. The rosebud on the altar this morning is to announce the birth of David Allen Belzer, the son of Rabbi and Mrs. Julius Belzer. Tuesday at 4 p.m. there will be an ice cream social. All ladies giving milk will come early. Oh, I love this one. Must have been in my bulletin. Barbara remains in the hospital and needs blood donors for more transfusions. She's also having trouble sleeping and requests tapes of Rabbi Robert's sermon. During the absence of our rabbi, we enjoy the rare privilege of hearing a good sermon when Rabbi A.B. Schwartz occupied the pulpit. Ushers will eat late comers. I'm going to give, even with my secretary, because this appeared in our bulletin. Rabbi Robert spoke briefly last Shabbat, much to the delight of his audience. Weight Watchers will meet at 7:30 p.m. at the Jewish Community Center. Please use the large double doors. The ladies of Hadassah have cast off clothing of every... Oh, I got to show it to you. I got two of them here. Wait. The ladies of Hadassah have cast off clothing of every kind and may be seen in the basement on Tuesday. Oh, here we go for the Maltz Museum, but it really happened at our congregation. The Associate Rabbi unveiled the synagogue's new fundraising campaign slogan this week. I up my pledge, up yours. The men's club is warmly invited to the Oneg hosted by Hadassah. Refreshments will be served for a nominal fee. Anyway, you know how tough it is to be married sometimes. My wife Elaine, who's back through 25 years we have been married, she asked me one day, she said, let me ask you this question. She said, if you moved away, who would you miss? You know, I said, you. And then, there is tough sometimes to be married. There's this woman sitting on the, in her yard on the porch, rocking back and forth, which has a glass of wine in her husband, a glass of wine in her hand. Her husband is there next to her, and she's rocking back and forth, and she says, you know, I don't know how I ever lived without you and how I'll ever get along without you. And her husband says, is that you or the wine speaking? She said, no, I'm speaking to the wine.